My dear, sacrificing, faithful brothers, and my valuable, strong, hard-working, and able friends in the service of Qur'an and Iman. Brothers like yourselves are the means of consolation for me in this world. You have proved that all the great hopes I had carried of you were true. May the pleasure of Almighty Allah be eternal with you. Ameen. What you have dispatched, the 10th word in particular, has delivered so much benefit here that if I could, I would hand out a great gift for each one of its pages. As I have not seen them for a long while, whichever one of them I would read, I said, this comes first. Then I would look at another and say, this is first. The more of them I looked at, I arrived at a firm conviction that the books of the Risale-i Nur cannot be preferred over each other. Each one of them presides over its own station, an Arab spiritual miracle of the Qur'an which illuminates this age. Indeed, in its totality, the Risale-i Nur is an important and spiritual and scholarly murshid guide of this age. And many signs and events have given me certain conviction that like other great individual murshids, it has shown in a number of ways significant karamats appropriate to the truths of knowledge, particularly in the way it reveals and spreads the truths of Iman. So too, many of its risales, such as the miracles of Ahmed ﷺ, with its 3 evident karamats, the 10th word, the 29th word, and Ayat al-Kubra, the supreme sign, each have karamat particular to themselves. In fact, multiple events have left no doubt that even at the moment of their death, it reaches out to save the iman of its students like a murshid. 1 hour of contemplation is equivalent to a year of optional worship. I witnessed and was convinced that a sample of this was the Hizbul Akbar of the Nur. Note: in the beginning of the 3rd station of Ayat al-Kubra, Ahmed Faruqi has said the following about the Risale-i Nur. Somebody from among the theologians will come to explain and prove all the truths of Iman with perfect clarity. Time has proven that this person is not a man, it is rather the Risale-i Nur. The people of Kashf witnessed the Risale-i Nur in their unveilings in the form of its insignificant translator and so have expressed it as being a man. I would have liked to send you a copy of the Hizbul Akbar of the Risale-i Nur and the Hizbul Azam of the Qur'an. But because the Hizbul Azam is quite long, I was unable to have it scribed. As for the Hizbul Akbar, I wanted to translate it, but have held off on it for now. Considering brothers like yourselves to be in no need of a translation, I will send you the Arabic copy of it inshallah. The piece that I had previously sent you titled Summary of the 1st station of Ayat al-Kubra is the basis of that hizb. After modifying that foundation by adding some impulsive short passages and limitations, it took on a different form. It grew and developed as though into a miniature sample of the Ayat al-Kubra, whereby the testimony of Tawheed shined brightly and its meanings were illuminated. It started to give me a great expanse within my spirit, heart, and mind. So I reflectively read it during the times I was most tired and weary and felt immense pleasure and enthusiasm. I will share with you a passage I had written in response to a question in the hope that you may benefit. Some who have extensively studied the poems of the Awliya and the books of scholars have asked, why is the pleasure, ardor, iman, and conviction provided by the Risale-i Nur far greater than those works? The answer: most of the divans by those blessed people of the past and some of the treatises of scholars discuss the results, fruits, and effulgence received as a result of iman and knowledge, marifah. In their age, there was no attack made on the foundations and origins of iman. The pillars of iman were not shaken. Whereas now, there is an intense and collective attack carried out against the origins and pillars of Iman. Most of those divans and treatises address sincere believers and individuals, and so are unable to repel the terrifying attacks of this age. As for the Risale-i Nur, as a spiritual miracle of the Qur'an, it saves the foundations of Iman, and rather than benefiting from the Iman that is present, it in fact serves to establish, reinforce, and preserve Iman and to save it from doubts by providing many proofs and brilliant evidences. For this reason, those who examine it carefully conclude that like bread and like medicine, it is what everyone needs in this age. Those divans say, become an awliya and see, rise to the stations and look, you will then receive the lights and effulgence. Whereas the Risale-i Nur says, no matter who you are, look, see, simply open your eyes, observe the truth, and save your Iman, which is the key to eternal happiness. Also, the Risale-i Nur looks foremost at persuading the nafs of its interpreter and looks on to others after that. Surely, a lesson that completely persuades his evil commanding nafs and removes his doubts altogether is so powerful and pure that it can retaliate and be victorious on its own against the collective spiritual character of misguidance, which in this age has taken the form of a community. Moreover, the Risale-i Nur does not provide lessons only by means of the intellect, like the works of other scholars, and it does not move only by means of the kashf and keramet of the heart, like other awliya. Rather, it rises to the highest pinnacle by moving with the union and compatibility of the intellect and heart, and the cooperation of the spirit and other subtle faculties. It ascends far beyond the hills of philosophy, which are on attack, to places not even philosophy's vision can reach, and shows the truth of Iman to its blind eyes. My dear and completely loyal brothers, you are my consolation and joy in this world. I could not have endured these 4 years of torment without you all. Your steadfastness and firmness provided me with perseverance and patience as well. 4 points which have suddenly come to mind. The first, my brothers, it is my belief that this earthquake is a miracle of the Qur'an, like the miracle of the splitting of the moon. It has taken on such a state that it has compelled even the most obstinate to confirm it. The second, there has been no community in the past that has suffered such little difficulty in the method of truth and reality, while at the same time achieve such great work as performed by the students of the Risale-i Nur. Those who have achieved 1/10 of our service have suffered 10 times our difficulty. This means that we are in a state of offering shukr and saying Alhamdulillah at all times. The third, I studied the Risales that were dispatched and saw in them certain truths that are recurring. It appears they have been repeated in regards to station, maqam. Why has this occurred unintentionally, rather without my will? I was bothered by the neglect my memory was experiencing. Suddenly, I was vehemently warned, look at the end of the 19th word. I saw that the glittering wisdom of the repetition in the miraculous Qur'an of the prophethood of Ahmed ﷺ completely emerged in its true tafsir, the Risale-i Nur. Those repetitions in the Risales are completely fitting, suitable, and necessary for those same instances of wisdom. Lütfü, Abdurrahman, and Junior Ali, who is like Hafiz Ali, has requested on your behalf the tafsir and translation of the Arabic 29th flash. I now have neither the time nor the energy which permits me to work on it. Inshallah, another student of the Risale-i Nur will perform that duty in the future. Also, the 20th letter and the 32nd words are to a degree explanations of that flash. The mystery of Imam Ali radiallahu anh Repeating Tugadu Sirajun Nuri Sirran twice indicates that those lights will secretly shine beneath the veil and encourages and commands us to practice caution. I will briefly allude to a matter and have your intelligence comprehend it. Question: why is it that the convulsions and fury of the earth, which arise due to its fear, does not visit the Russians, but only? The answer: because to betray a religion that has been nullified and distorted through atheism is one thing, whereas the betrayal of a religion that stands in truth for all eternity causes the earth to tremble in anger. You have requested the stations of the introduction of the resurrection, the first part of the ninth ray. Just as my current state of health does not permit me in any way, since the truths and evidences that have been written regarding the resurrection are completely sufficient for the needs of all people, I am not compelled to write it hastily. It is partly postponed, but not expedited. Also, I am kept under restrictions here. As-sabr miftahul faraji wa surur. Bismihi subhanahu wa in min shay'in illa yusabbihu bihamdih. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu abadan da'ima. My dear, steadfast, sacrificing, loyal brothers. Firstly, I congratulate your upcoming Eid. With the extraordinary value of these blessed nights and dawns which have been established by the oath in the Qur'an, wal-fajr, wa-layali al-ashr, I beseech the mercy of the All-Merciful that throughout these times the blessed du'as of my blessed brothers are for me and the people of Iman, full of barakah and light. Secondly, I have sent you a minor error through which there is a major point related to the ghaib and a note in the opposite page so that you can write them in their places. Thirdly, I feel that Hulusi is troubled by a burden. He should not worry. Students of the Risale-i Nur are under the supervision and protection of divine favor and mercy. Since the difficulties of the world yield rewards and are passing, it is necessary to respond to those calamities with patience, thanks, and firmness. He and yourselves are with me in all my prayers and rewards. Fourthly, the Risale-i Nur spreads through its own means under the guardianship of the Qur'an and divine protection. For Imam Ali radiallahu anh to say Sirran, Sirran twice indicates that it will provide more light and effulgence when it is hidden beneath the veil. I carry the hope that brothers like yourselves will again completely withstand the disruptive events of this time like they have done until now. Our principle should always be Man amana bil qadar amana min al kadar. My dear brothers, I too congratulate you on your Eid. You ask about my health. Faced with the intense winter here, the coldness of my room, the effects of the three sorrowful gurba, isolated displacements, and the distresses caused by the three types of sicknesses which have led to my agitation, I am completely alone faced with many intolerable difficulties. Despite this, I offer endless thanks to my Creator for saving me with Iman, which is the secret remedy for all ailments and for the medicine of submission to the divine decree. Within the belief in Qadar, it has made me thank Allah in complete patience. My dear and loyal and sincere brothers, endless thanks be to my compassionate sustainer that he has created supporters, publishers, and custodians of the Risale-i Nur like yourselves, and has lessened the heavy burden on the shoulders of a weak and helpless person like myself. Brothers, this time I saw in 3 of your letters 9 valuable brothers at once, who are the likes of 3 Hulusis, 3 Sabris, and 3 Haqqis. It has given me great joy to realize that in place of Abdurrahman's father, the progress of the earnest and truthful brotherhood and studentship of Haqqı, who sewed patches on my clothing for me in prison, has far exceeded my expectations. Brother Sabri, you do not attach any importance to the heavy restrictions which surround me and limit me, whereas the worldly here, who are suspicious, are overly engaged with me and keep a close watch on me. In fact, even, anyhow. Moreover, to give me favorable thoughts and a worthiness and station that is 1,000 times beyond my due can only be accepted if it is on behalf of the Risale-i Nur and its service and on account of proclaiming the diamonds of the Qur'an. Otherwise, I have no right to accept them on account of my person, which is at the level of nothing within nothingness. When you deem it suitable, you can send the Risale on Ayatul Kubra, scribed by Hafiz Tevfik, who with his hard-working pen occupies an important part of the memory of both the Risale-i Nur and ourselves. My eyes, which have happily grown familiar with his writings for 9 years, long and wish to see those writings. My valuable brothers who resemble Hulusi and Haqqı. Like Haqqı says, the letters by Sabri have become accepted in exactly their place, and in that respect my communication with Hulusi has not ceased, it continues. Endless thanks and praise be to Allah that the Risale-i Nur is increasingly achieving wonderful and amazing conquests of Iman. Inshallah, it will settle by itself in the hearts of those who gaze upon it and will silence those who are obstinate. Through divine protection, it has confused the enemies who are unable to see it with their blind eyes. Although they can find no trace of it, they witness its brilliant activities. What is required now is great caution. My dear, loyal, valuable brothers, and my firm, earnest, hard-working friends in the service of the Qur'an, I have received your letter, which is a new means of karamat, grace, and joy. And it displayed a gift and divine grace offered to the Risale-i Nur, which is as follows. 4 or 5 days ago, the house I reside in was searched by an intense investigation. Despite looking everywhere, through divine protection, they could find nothing with which they could sadden us. They only found 6 or 7 risales, like those on frugality, the sick, on istiaza, seeking refuge with Allah from a Satan, and deemed them harmless. And like Husrev's matter regarding the azan, contrary to the orders given to seize whatever they found, all of them were handed back. After these incidents, I became worried as to whether you, too, had experienced such an attack. As I was coming back from the mountain, I wished that I could ask you, together with Abdul Majid, Sabri, Husrev, and Hafiz Ali. I exclaimed this wish verbally as I was coming down. When I arrived, Emin opened the door and immediately handed me the letter sent by each of you. We both witnessed this benevolence and the karamat of protection in the investigation and saw the divine grace in how such an outcome corresponded to such an unexpected request made by Husrev. And we offer thanks to Allah that the Risale-i Nur is under divine protection at all times. My dear brothers, the work of writing out the remainder of the index was referred to you. It will be good for you to prefer the way of collaboration. MashaAllah, Barakallah, the excellent work performed by your pens continue as you grow in number, with the village of Saw in particular experiencing such a sudden rise. 1,000 Barakallah to Haji Hafiz and his village, they have given us great joy. Husrev's writings, with Tawafuk, in particular the gilded copy of the Miracles of Ahmed والسلام, and the Risales by both the senior and junior Alis, are sweet and have had many conquests in this area. Inshallah, we will see those blessed pens making further conquest in the future. My dear, valuable, loyal, and steadfast brothers, it is very good that you have entrusted the collective spiritual character of your cooperative committee to complete the index through a collaboration. You have thereby found a permanent and complete Ustad. That collective spiritual Ustad is more exalted than this weak brother of yours. It leaves no need for me. Brother Sabri, your dream is blessed and profound. Inshallah, time will interpret it. Brothers, for your sake and due to my worries about your military service, I looked at the events of this age. The following came to my heart. This European civilization, which is built on negative principles, says, as Qarun did, إِنَّمَا أُوتِيتُهُ عَلَى عِلْمٍ, and expresses ingratitude by blinding itself to the divine gifts, and commits shirk through its materialist ideology, and has its faults outweigh its merits. It has received such a heavenly slap that the fruits of its 100-year progress was set on fire to be destroyed and burnt. In return for the tyranny of the tyrannical governments of Europe, and with the treaty of serfs, their serious betrayals towards the center of the world of Islam and headquarters of the Caliphate, they have received a blow casting them into a hell which they cannot come out of and which has left them struggling in anguish even in this world. Indeed, just like the earthquake, this defeat is the penalty for betrayal. Many people here have concluded with certainty that, in contrast to other areas, the reason why Sparta and Kastamonu, which are the centers of the dissemination of the Risale-i Nur, have been protected against heavenly disasters is the tahkiki iman and strong conviction provided by the Risale-i Nur. For disasters like these are the consequence of mistakes which arise from weakness of iman. Just as according to the hadith, sadaqah repels calamities, according to its degree, the strength of iman also retaliates against those calamities. My dear, loyal, devoted, sacrificing, and faithful brothers, this time the spiritual and enlightened gift you have sent is, in my view, like a jug filled with the water of Kawthar from the highest level of paradise. As though sent from the eternal realm, my spirit was filled with relief, and all my faculties were overjoyed and offered thanks to Allah. Although I intended to write to you at length, by time and my state did not consent and permit me, so I was forced to cut it short. However, I would like to say to the individuals who were responsible for these gifts, MashaAllah, Barakallah, Wafakakumullah, As'adakumullah. Particularly in the madrasa of the 27th letter, I visited the past and once again met with my brothers, who I long for and miss, and spoke with them and repeatedly conversed with each one of them. The Jifir value of the sentence, وَإِن كُنْتُمْ مَرْدَى, which is the first introduction of the 31st ayah, is 1,500 and a bit. This indicates that the great majority of the spiritual diseases implanted by the people of misguidance can be wiped out with the Qur'anic medicines of the Risale-i Nur, and it infers that if the world has a life of about 200 years remaining, unfortunately a misguided sect too will persist. In the indicative meaning of the sentence, فَتَيَمَّمُوا سَعِدًا, there are two reasons why in the first point of the second indication the letter Sin is hidden beneath the letter Sad and is seen as Sad. The first, Sa'id must carry himself like earth, in complete humility, abandonment of the ego, and absolute modesty, so that he does not pollute the Risale-i Nur and does not reduce its effect. The second, since the reason for the current descent into the swamp and spiritual plague arises from the idea of progress, It reveals their mistakes and points out that for Muslims, advancement and progress is only through Islam and in having Iman. Brothers, recently I have been warned about two matters, one regarding the students of the Risale-i Nur and the other regarding myself. I am writing it due to its importance. First matter, it has been shown in the first ray that the indications of 2 or 3 ayat provide the sacred news and strong joyful tidings that loyal students of the Risale-i Nur will enter the grave with Iman and will be of the people of paradise. Nevertheless, I anticipated that this great matter and valuable indication would require evidence that would give it full strength. I had been waiting for a long time. Lillahi alhamd, 2 indications came to my heart at once. The first indication. As tahkiki iman moves from ilm al-yaqeen, certainly at the degree of knowledge, closer to haqq al-yaqeen, certainly at the degree of reality, it can no longer be eradicated. This was the judgment made by the people of Kashf and Tahqiq, who have said, at the hour of death, a Satan can cause uncertainty only in the mind by using its scruples to bring doubts. Whereas this type of Tahqiqi Iman does not remain with the mind alone. Rather, it spreads into the heart, the spirit, the sir, innermost level of the heart, and settles in such subtle faculties that a Satan cannot reach them. The Iman of such people is preserved. One path which serves to reach this level of Tahqiqi Iman is to reach the truths through perfect Velaya and with Kashf, unveilings, and Shuhud, witnessing. This is a special path for the highest of the elite. It is to have Iman at the level of Shuhud, witnessing. The second path is an evidential and Qur'anic style which, from the perspective of belief in the Ghaib, derives from the effulgence of the mystery of revelation. It is to confirm the truths of Iman through the union of the heart and the mind, which reaches the degree of strength found in the level of haqq al-yaqeen and at the level of ilm al-yaqeen, which reaches the degree of necessity and clarity. The elect students of the Risale-i Nur can see that this second path is the foundation, basis, spirit, and truth of the Risale-i Nur. If others too look with fairness, they will see that the Risale-i Nur shows that the paths contrary to the truths of Iman are at the degree of improbability, impossibility, and inconceivability. The second indication, the abundant, acceptable, and sincere prayers being made for loyal students of the Risale-i Nur to have a favorable end and to achieve perfect Iman are such that to have all those prayers turned down is inconceivable. For instance, amongst the 100 prayers a single servant and student of the Risale-i Nur makes for the favorable end and eternal happiness of Risale-i Nur students, at least 20 or 30 of these same du'as are made under conditions that are most conducive for its acceptance, to preserve their Iman, to have a favorable end, and enter the grave with Iman. Moreover, the sincere, innocent tongues of Risale-i Nur students praying for each other to have sound Iman, which in this age is confronted by the most fierce attacks in every aspect, yields such strength in its totality that mercy and wisdom will not allow them to be turned down. Supposing they were all turned down and only one was accepted, it will still be sufficient for each to enter the grave with sound Iman, as each dua is general. Second matter. In a true dream, which was published 20 years ago in his treatise called Sunuhat, a spiritual assembly set up to counsel on the future destiny of the world of Islam questioned the old Sayyid on behalf of this century. Some of his answers have now emerged. At the time, the spiritual assembly said, "What is the wisdom behind the defeat suffered by the Ottoman state as a result of Germany's defeat in this war?" The old side said in reply, "If we had been victorious, we would have given up the many sacred matters of religion for the sake of this civilization, like we did 7 years later." And under the label of civilization, the regime which reigned over Anatolia would have easily spread and be implemented throughout the world of Islam by force, particularly in sacred places like the two holy cities, Haramain Sharifein. With divine providence, Qadar decreed for our defeat so that they are preserved. 20 years after this same reply, I was again asked one night, when we had the option to remain neutral and regain lost lands, as well as liberate Egypt and India and make them unite with us and gain a great victory in the world's political scene, what is the wisdom behind such intelligent, even genius people being blind to this and being inclined to offer support to a questionable, complicated, and futile enemy, the British, and prefer such a path with compounded harm? The reply that came was from a spiritual aspect, and I was told, the response you provided to the spiritual question 20 years ago applies exactly to this same question. That is to say, if support was given to the victors, on account of this barbaric civilization, this regime would have reigned over the world of Islam and would have spread and be implemented across the whole places without resistance. It is for the safety of 300 million Muslims that they were made to act blindly and did not see this clear error.